Oh, welcome back, everybody. I'm glad you guys are joining us today. Today, I got Rob Noerr joining us from the Rob Noerr channel, Normal America. It's great to have you, Rob, here today to discuss, of course, one of the hottest topics right now, especially prior to the convention to the DNC, is the effort to possibly replace Joe Biden as the nominee for the DNC ticket. Rob, welcome. Thank you for joining me today to talk about this topic.
Oh my goodness. So first, let's talk about that, and then I'll tell you what the real important fact that's came out is. Yeah, I mean, I've predicted for years that Biden ultimately wouldn't be the nominee in 2024. I think they would have kicked Biden to the road years ago if they didn't sandbag themselves with Kamala Harris, who's incredibly unpopular. So they were unable to convince Biden to get out early because they didn't want to lead to a Kamala Harris presidency, and now that decision's biting them now. DEI strikes again. Instead of picking the best person for the job, they decided it would be best to pander, and they'll call they'll call you a racist for noticing it. But if you go back and look at the media portrayals in 2020, they were all saying Biden needs to pick a woman of color. That's what the Democratic strategists were saying. So, it's not saying there aren't women of color that could have been successful. They just happen to pick one based on tokenism. That's not very good. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And of course, after the debate with Trump and Biden, the media could no longer hide behind the fact that good old Joe just had a stutter. The American people witnessed firsthand that the media lied to them during this entire process leading up to the 2020 election, and then up until this debate that we had in 2024, that Biden is his first, it just has so much stamina, his aides have a hard time, keeping up with him, et cetera, et cetera. This is the BS that we're feeding for the last 4 years. And, long and behold, here comes the debate. It shows the American people that the media was lying. So the media now has to take this stance as like, whoa, we need to start going ahead and criticizing Biden. Biden comes out and says, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be the nominee, backed by the Biden family. There is an internal war brewing behind the scenes with the Biden family and, of course, the rest of the DNC. And now you have congressional members of Congress, people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and others who are now coming out and saying, maybe it's time we reevaluate our situation. And Rob, if they go in this direction, let's just play devil's advocate for a second. If they go in this direction, Rob, and they replace Biden, how does that shake out? Would it be possible to get the new name on the ballot, or would they just vote for Biden and they just insert whomever? Help educate me and my audience.
It could be both. So the big question is actually the biggest legal hurdle is sort of the money. So there's over $200 million that Biden Harris have raised. If Biden drops out and it's not Harris, then that money can't just magically go, let's say theoretically be Gavin Newsom. That money can't go to Gavin Newsom. Now there are loopholes. They could donate that money to a super PAC, and then that super PAC could then spend that money on the election, but they would not be allowed to coordinate with whoever the Democratic candidate would be. There are specific states where there are deadlines for when your name needs to be on the ballot, particularly places like Wisconsin, I think. I believe there would be loopholes that they would be able to work through that as well. But certainly what you're saying is partially true as well. Scott Adams, for example, is predicting that ultimately what will happen will be they'll just say, look, you're voting for a Biden-Harris ticket, but we all know Biden's not going to be the president. It was too late to change things. So really you're voting for Kamala Harris, and who she would end up having as her VP. So it's certainly both of those things could be simultaneously true. I think that the big story, though, is something that you hit on. And immediately following the debate, I did a live stream where I talked about this. The story is not that Joe Biden's not competent to be president. The story is that every major institution in this country gaslit you for 4 years that you shouldn't believe your lying eyes, and instead told you that Joe Biden behind the scenes was sharp as a tack. Let's just take one issue. In the lawfare efforts to go after Donald Trump, one of the things they're going after is the mishandling of classified documents. We now know that Biden has committed that same crime, including when he was senator. So for years, he's committed that same crime. His DOJ goes after Trump, and then they realize, whoops, our president's doing the same thing we're accusing Trump. And so there's a special counsel appointed who ultimately lets Biden off the hook because he says Biden's going to be sympathetic to juries because basically he's an old man with memory issues. Now, the Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to not have that audio released while simultaneously telling you that her's a liar, that Biden didn't sound bad in his interviews. How could those two things be simultaneously true? Now, that violating of a subpoena by Merrick Garland, he's thrown Republicans like Steve Bannon in jail for violating subpoenas, yet of course the rules don't apply to him. Now, all of this is a large roundabout way of saying the following. Everything that they gaslight you about and they talk about Trump being a threat to democracy, the economy actually being fantastic, the border being secure, all of our foreign policy decisions in places like Ukraine, we didn't know who bombed the pipeline, all of it. If they're willing to blatantly lie to you about something you could see with your own eyes, what are they unwilling to lie to you about? And there hasn't been any mea culpas. The media's came out and now they're trying to play the like, oh, we were duped. We had no idea that Biden was like this. But I know they're lying. And you want to know how I know they're lying? Because I knew it, Frank, and you knew it. And we don't have near the access to Biden that they do. They intentionally covered up for Joe Biden. And now it's not that they're worried that for at least the next 6 months, we have an incompetent, though that incompetent's been president for years now. But they're not worried about that. They're only worried about, what are his chances to beat Donald Trump? And do we need to replace him to beat Donald Trump? These people don't care about you. They feel that they are better than the American citizen. And I'm speaking not just to Republicans. I'm speaking to Democrats that might be watching this as well. They felt that had you known the truth, you might not have been good enough to make the right decision. And what's the right decision? Whatever they want to maintain their allies in power. They're not journalists. They're not politicians that are there to serve their constituents. They're people interested in lying to you to maintain their own power. And if they are not held accountable, in particular by the rejection of Joe Biden and whoever they replace him with, for example, if it's Kamala Harris, Kamala says she sees Joe Biden nearly every day. Why was she unable to tell us that he's unfit to be president? She covered it up as well. So the entire Democratic Party, 95% of the Democrats that you see that follow politics enough that they're streamers or that they're on television or that they're in politics, they lied to you. They gaslit you in the most blatant ways, and they're just going to go right on to the next gaslighting. Next, it'll be Russia's interfering again, or Trump's a threat to democracy, or actually the economy's doing way better. Don't worry, we'll revise the numbers months later.
Yeah, real quick. If they were to replace Biden, or two-part question, try to do it in 60 seconds here.
Sure.
Two-part. Who do you think they would replace Biden with? And two, should Republicans be cheering on them replacing Biden?
To answer the second first, no. I think if you're interesting strategically for Trump winning, then Biden's probably the best person for him to go against right now. Though there is one caveat. I would be cheering to remove Biden as president because he's incompetent, and I'm worried about our country right now. Who would they replace him with? It's probably going to be Kamala because it's just going to be easier to do that. It'll be difficult to sell to the American people, particularly black Americans, why the first black woman was skipped over when she was already on the ballot. Who would they like to go to? Probably Michelle, but I don't think she wants to run, or someone like Gavin Newsom or Josh Shapiro or one of these Democratic governors like Gretchen Whitmer. I think it'll be a tough sell, though, to get those people in to skip over Kamala. So my prediction would be at this point Kamala Harris, and she's not going to do much better than Biden, but probably a little better.
Yeah, and for sure. I know that's a big thing right now in conservative circles, conservative influencers or Trump influencers, whatever you want to call them, over places like on Twitter. They're like, oh, we need to replace Biden. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. Don't. Why are you guys cheering this on? Just let them continue to eat themselves and destroy themselves. Don't feed into it saying, hey, we need to replace Biden. Just shut up and let them continue to do. That's probably the smartest thing the Trump campaign has done for the last since the debate is allow them to destroy themselves publicly without having to take very many missteps, because sometimes Trump does have a tendency to step on a rake from time to time. And right now, is what he's doing has been perfect as far as highlighting the Democrat Party as a whole.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you, Rob, for coming on. Make sure you guys join us next time when we have Rob on to discuss the possible picks for Trump's VP. Who will it be? Who does Rob think it will be? Make sure you tune in next time, and Rob will give you his best thoughts and maybe best pick that he would choose if he was Trump. You guys can always follow Rob and all the links down below. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. And until then, have a great day.